The president is doubling down on your right to own a gun. A day after retired Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens called for a repeal of the Second Amendment, President Trump said, "Fat chance, party pants." He said this morning, or he said rather, the Second Amendment will never be repealed. As much as Democrats would like to see this happen, and despite the words yesterday of former Supreme Court Justice Stevens, no way. We need more Republicans in 2018 and must always hold the Supreme Court. But some support for Stevens is coming from the most unlikely of places, Texas, Tejas. Gun owner and Democratic candidate for a state office there, Marty Schexnayder, agrees with the idea of repeal, saying owning a gun should be a privilege, not a right. So what's his plan after that? Joining me now, Marty Schexnayder, Democratic candidate for Texas State Representative out of Houston. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I think the idea is interesting because right now we're at a point where people are, instead of just reaching for typical talking points, reaching for more extreme solutions, which run the gamut from arming every teacher to repealing the Second Amendment completely. Do you fall on the side of the latter?
Yeah, I do. And that's been a developing opinion, like probably most Americans. I have gone from the situation where I did agree it was a fundamental right to have a weapon for self-defense to the point we are now, which is people are dying. Children are dying because we cannot agree on what the Second Amendment even means. So as long as that dispute is out there, that we're arguing about what even the language means, I believe we have to scrap that amendment and start from scratch.
I don't know that you have to do that, and I do think you have to consider the hyperbole a little bit. Would you agree that children now are safer or less safe than they were 15 years ago?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt they're less safe.
Statistically, however, there has been a precipitous drop not only in gun violence but in violent crime. So how does that square with the idea if children are surviving at a higher rate, how are they less safe?
Well, I guess you'd have to sit down and talk to the parents of those children in Parkland and Newtown, or the people that were related to the people that were killed in Vegas, and try to convince them that somehow we're all safer than we used to be. I don't buy that. And if you look at a bigger picture, which is where does the United States sit in the world in terms of gun deaths, we're at the top.
Yeah,
and guess what? That directly correlates to the fact we have more guns than the rest of the world.
Okay, well, that's true.
It's a direct correlation.
Absolutely. So let's talk about direct correlations because I think that's very important. In Texas, you have more guns than anywhere else in the country. Therefore, you have no living people in Texas because more guns means more homicides. So you've got so many guns there that everyone is obviously dead, correct?
Well, the problem with that premise is, number one, that the people who own guns in Texas are mostly law-abiding citizens. And by the way, just because I advocate for repeal of the Second Amendment does not mean I advocate for banning guns. It's two different things entirely. What I said in my tweet.
How does that work? So we repeal the Second Amendment so people no longer are able to exercise their constitutional right to protect themselves, which would be a very difficult argument for you to put forward in the state of Texas. I've been there many times. I know a lot of people there. It's a very special place. So how do you square that with what we have come to the conclusion as a natural right with the idea, let's say you repeal that. Let's say you repeal it and people now have to prove that they are responsible and capable of owning and using a gun. That's fine. What do you do about the 300 million guns that are already out there?
Well, I'll address that question in two parts. First of all, you said it's a natural right.
Self-defense is a natural right, yes.
Okay, well, I'm not sure where you get that, because most interpreters of the U.S. Constitution apply the right to bear arms to the preceding language that talks about a well-regulated militia. Those two things go together. Now, I know Justice Scalia.
Yes, but Justice Scalia was in the majority in the D.C. versus Heller case, and there are many political philosophers who very clearly define what a natural right is, and the right to continue living your life without someone taking it from you happens to be one of those natural rights. How do you maintain your life? Sometimes it is through self-defense.
Well, so that gets to my second point of my answer, and that is, like I said, if we make gun ownership a privilege and not a right, all that means is that the people who want guns have to go through a few simple steps to get them.
And criminals will probably do that. You're absolutely right.
Use them safely.
I think you're right. I think criminals are the first ones who are going to sign up for training. They are going to register their weapons. They are probably going to hand over the ones that you arbitrarily deem to be unfit because your brand of authoritarian moralization proves that you know better than other people how best to defend themselves and their families. That's great. That makes a lot of sense. You've changed my mind.
Well, again, when you apply home defense and self-defense to this argument, you're ignoring things like children at school who aren't there to defend themselves, or people who are at a concert in Las Vegas. They're not there to defend themselves. These are people doing normal, everyday activities that are getting slaughtered.
Yes.
Because we cannot agree on how to restrict gun ownership. The Second Amendment is broken. In Texas, we say if something ain't broke, you don't fix it.
Yeah, well,
the
you could
Second
also
Amendment
argue that
broke.
humanity is broken, and the few people who cross the line and go on those murderous rampages, you could wad up the Second Amendment and shoot it at them with a cannon, and it's not going to change the expressions of their psychosis, unfortunately. I wish you luck in your race. I realize it is an uphill battle for you. You have a lot of people in Texas who may be registered Democrats, but they are adherents to the Second Amendment more than any other place I've visited in this country, so good luck.